So today, together with four of our valuable speakers, we're gonna bring a fabulous gaming panel for you guys. So let's welcome our first panelist, Anthony from Zion. Please see it according to the picture. For the picture. Yeah, who is the CEO from Zion Infra?
Hello.
And then the second speaker, Michael from Star Atlas, who is the founder and CEO. The second one. And then we're supposed to have Shuban from Manta Network, but because of the weather, I think he got stuck. Let's see whether he can make it today. So let's welcome our third speaker, who is Frank Yu from IOBC Capital. And then, last but not least, Christian. Okay, we have everyone ready here. Okay, this chair looks a little bit high here.
You're good.
I'm good. Okay, everyone, nice to see you guys. I see a lot of familiar face, and then it's my first time in Dubai. And then it's very happy to meet all the old friends and then meet new friend here. So, what's new in the gaming? So, everyone knows that gaming is a very important part for this industry. And then even, boosted the last bull run, right? So for last round, we have, GameFi and GameFi and GameFi, right? So today we have, four pioneers in this industry to talk about what's new for this round in gaming. So I would love to introduce, I will have to let themselves introduce themselves about the projects they're building, and then just, couple sentences to introduce themselves. Anthony, do you want to start?
Great. Yeah, it's great. Everyone can hear me. Cool. I am Anthony. I am the CEO of Zion. We are building chain abstraction. The reason I get the name Burnt Banksy, about 3 years ago, I bought a Banksy art piece, lit it on fire, and for all of 2021 was the highest average price sale on OpenSea.
Okay, Michael.
Test. Okay, we're good. Hello, everyone. I'm Michael. I am the co-founder and CEO of Star Atlas. We're a Web3 gaming concept, naturally, building on Solana in Unreal Engine 5. And what we're building is an immersive, open-world, hyperscale space exploration MMO. We actually do quite a lot of our development on-chain as well. I know we're going to be talking about it a little bit today, but we're very forward-facing in fully on-chain gaming. We build that out in a browser-based application right now. We have a mobile application. These are all part of the broader Star Atlas ecosystem. And really beyond gaming, I think Star Atlas is as much a development platform, an extensible development platform, as it is a game.
Hello, everyone. This is Frank Yu from IOBC Capital. Unfortunately, I'm not building any projects as others do. I think I'm only investor here. Our company, IOBC Capital, is a crypto venture with Asian background and put a lot of focus on gaming projects. So it's really a great opportunity to meet you guys.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Chris. I'm the co-founder of Straightfire, and we are producers of IPs in Web2, so animation, comics, toys, and we're bringing those into the world of Web3, and we're bringing ownership and rewards to the Web3 community, and we are an IP-based GameFi project.
Sounds good. Thank you, everyone, for the intro. So let's, dive deep into what's going on in the gaming industry right now. So our first question comes to everyone. So you guys are, all very OG in this industry and also in gaming, right? So what's new for this round of gaming, compared to last round? And then, what's new in the market needs, in terms of, what the players are looking for, new things for this round compared to last round. Anyone wants to take lead? Michael, maybe?
Yeah, I can jump in first. I'm going to kind of meander my way into this. You had talked a little bit about marketing as part of the question, and I think there's has been a big narrative around how do we start to attract the traditional gamer to Web3 gaming and introduce them to all of the benefits and possibilities that blockchain integration introduces to gaming in general. I've always taken a pretty controversial approach to this, and I still do, which is just to say that I think that there is quite a massive existing gamer audience that are already native to Web3. So I don't think that there's any sense of urgency, at least from our point of view, of going after this mainstream gamer. Now, of course, everybody wants growth. Everybody wants new users, and everybody wants to scale, and revenues and monetization, profitability, all scales around that. But the perspective and kind of ideology of Star Atlas is that we already have a captive audience who's capable of interacting with this technology, who understands the benefits, and that really drives our ability to generate revenue and bootstrap the growth of our company and the further development of our company. I said it was going to be meandering. Coming back to what are we seeing now is now that we are arguably 6 years into the idea of GameFi, or perhaps 7 years, depending on how you think about something like CryptoKitties, which I've been around for a long time, but I think CryptoKitties was one of the first that kind of broke Ethereum. About 7 years in now, but realistically the last cycle, 2020, 2021, that was when we really started seeing some major visions and proposals come to the blockchain. And that's when Star Atlas got its start. We launched on Solana in January of 2021. And what we are building is this hyper-realistic AAA cinematic world. And so given now that we've had 3-4 years of substantial development in the Web3 space, I think this is the cycle where we start to see those products roll out that have more mainstream appeal, whereas the quality of a product that people want to interact with, regardless of whether or not it has crypto or not. And I think it presents a big opportunity for those of us that are builders to actually attract that audience and educate them on all of the benefits of crypto and why we're doing what we're doing. But the product is ultimately going to be the core attraction. It's what captivates and captures their attention, and then we can keep them here with a fun experience and all of these financial benefits.
I think just to kind of piggyback off of that, I think you kind of have two classes of people who raised last cycle, and I think both of them realized that games are actually very difficult to make. And so you had one max exodus of people who just failed and kind of gave up. And then I think you have, to answer the question of what's new, it's you finally have these games that took multiple years of development that people just really didn't expect it to take that long. I think you guys are a great example. If I were to think of one AAA game, you guys would be the first to come to mind. And it's really awesome to see, following you guys for so long, seeing the demos, seeing all the gameplay, seeing everything, and it's come a long way from the banners and the trailers, and it's really, really awesome to see. But at the end of the day, games are hard to make, and it's a pretty unfortunate thing, especially about this industry. But it's nice to see that you actually have products coming out finally.
Thank you, and I don't want to hijack, but just to dovetail on your point, I don't think this is ubiquitously known, but a product like ours, we're anticipating a production budget of some $400 million. I mean, this is an incredible amount of money to raise and deploy over time to bring this product to life, but it's a 10-year life cycle. And to your exact point, I think the only way you can approach it in Web3, if you want to be at the front edge of the curve, is to develop and release iteratively, give people experiences, keep them engaged, and then continue to build in the background.
Michael is the real builder. I remember, actually Michael, is a fun fact here, actually Michael was the first person I met in crypto after I joined crypto. So yeah, he really set the standard very high for me in crypto. So yeah, I remember when first time I met Michael in Miami, he's like, oh, we're building a gaming project for 7 years. We have a 7-year roadmap. I was like, oh, real builder. And then, but I didn't know Star Atlas was that big at that moment. After a couple of months later, I'm like, oh, okay, builder. Yes. So maybe for the capital side, do you want to share some point of view that you think When you try to invest in a gaming project, what you are looking for?
Sure. Yeah. So, like to add up, we have seen a lot of builders like Michael are building like great quality games, AAA games. But I think we have seen some like interesting trend in this cycle that comparing to evolution of the gaming quality, some are like building games to put the Web3 features on meta game layers. It's not about gameplay itself, but maybe on your achievements, on your collections. And I think that's an interesting part, because for a lot of non-gamers, that's maybe some game can introduce them to come to this industry. And besides, I also keep an eye on Fuliang Chain games. So I think in last cycle, we don't have that concept. But in this cycle, we already have some good infrastructure with engine or Mood or Lattice. And I recently seen a project, very early stage, but they are kind of like building something you don't think it's a game, but he thinks it's still Fuliang Chain game.
So what's that?
It's Seluna, that I don't want to make some advertisement.
I mean,
yeah.
if you don't think that's a game, so tell everyone what do you think that would be?
That's an interesting game called Seluna. So it's at a very early stage. So anyone interested could participate in that. Yeah.
Yeah, like connect with Frank offline, and then after this panel, if you're interested, and then Christian.
So I basically think that what's the beauty of Web3 is that the order of things compared to developing an IP or a game in the real world is different. So you first present your big vision, then you start to collect and develop your community and network of partners and investors, and then bit by bit you do small releases and you develop the game, I guess, jointly. And I think that's substantially different from the real world. Consequently, in the last bull run, there were a lot of shitty projects that just were taking the starting point of let's develop a virtual world and then think about a narrative and a story and then think about gameplay. And I think what you see now is that those days hopefully are gone. And now the real projects remain that have a clear story, a clear narrative, clear product, and a clear experience for its community and user base. And I agree with Michael. I think maybe we get to it later, but there's this eternal conversations about attracting Web2 gamers, and I don't really understand it. I think let that be. I think if I look at my son who's 10 years old, plays Fortnite and Roblox, give it 10 years, he has no idea what the difference is between the two. I think we will get there. But I think we should cherish the uniqueness of Web3 and what it does to developing these projects.
Yeah, that's why our topic is beyond entertainment. How does gaming shape the industry? So, we've been talking about a lot of the real, game building and then also IP. And then, next question, does anybody want to talk about composable game? That probably can really help the gaming to achieve the metaverse or whatever, connecting everything together. So anybody want to share about that?
Happy to jump in here again. Yeah,
Yes, please.
It's really a core component of our ethos, and it's what we've started out and what we've outlined.
Maybe, Michael, do you want to introduce a little bit about the composable game for everybody maybe who are not familiar with that?
Yeah, so the way we think about composable games is really having these fully on-chain game systems, or otherwise extracting game logic from a game engine like Unity, like Voxel, like Unreal Engine 5 that we build in, building that into isolated or dedicated smart contracts, and then deploying those on chain and letting the blockchain that you operate on serve as the operating system or kind of the back end of your game to whatever extent possible. Now, I don't think it's realistic to say that you're ever going to, well, I don't want to say ever, but in the near term, we're not going to see everything executed on the chain, but perhaps giving an example of one of the product lines that we're developing out, something we call Star Atlas Golden Era. This is a browser-based implementation of the Star Atlas universe. Things like fleet management and movement and coordinate systems, extracting or mining materials, crafting, combat systems. These all run directly on the Solana blockchain. And the reason why this adds to extensibility or composability is we have open access to all of these libraries with documentation. And so we're already seeing a number of teams external from Automata, our studio, create applications or dApps that could be either financially oriented or game operation oriented that allows players to have a better experience. And they can do all of this permissionlessly. They don't talk to us. They don't ask us if they can do it. It is designed from the ground up for people to be able to do this precise thing, build alongside us and co-create this massive universe and deliver on this big vision that we have. It creates opportunities for those builders to create a service that they can monetize that is perfectly acceptable in our eyes. Our users get the benefit of all of this additional functionality, and we get the benefit of unpaid developers effectively because we don't have to pay for them to build innovative features that we know our users want, but we don't necessarily have the bandwidth or capacity to execute on. So composability is largely about how do you create that gaming platform. And in our case, we happen to have this extremely high quality gaming product at the center of it, the core attraction to bring the users in. But once you have the users, now you have a captive audience, and now it becomes so much more attractive for other people to build next to you because they know that if they build something that these users want, they will in fact use it, and perhaps they'll even pay for it. Now, a lot of the people that are developing around Star Atlas today are just doing this completely open source and for free, and I think that's incredible. These are just passionate people about what we're building, but long term, I see a lot of commercial application around all of this. The last part I would touch on, and you had mentioned metaverse, and I think metaverse as a term has kind of fallen out of favor over the last couple of years. I still think that this is kind of the next big thing in the internet and how we're going to experience life on the internet in the future. But with on-chain systems, it does create interoperability to some extent. There's a lot of challenges in how you incentivize interoperability, but things like cross-chain, so from ETH to Solana, for example, there are teams that are already building protocols that manage that. A separate version of this would be cross-engine interoperability between like a Unity or an Unreal Engine. But the reality is, if you're moving assets between game environments, somebody has to build it. Somebody has to create the art. A model that we've created in Star Atlas does not natively work inside Unity. So who's going to do that work, and how do they get economically incentivized to do that is a big outstanding question. But the fact that we have interconnected permissionless systems, it will enable a future where we can all interoperate.
Anybody else want to share some sense?
I don't think that it's a Web3 aspect of gaming. I think you look at where most innovation has come from. It's something else, but mostly gaming that has always pushed the boundaries of innovation. And I think really one of the core, I would say, core contributors to the open source kind of ethos. And I think you look at like just pretty much anything really derives from gaming. And I think you said it earlier, which was like last time we had GameFi. The industry as a whole, the only thing that we have is DeFi. Right, and so I don't think that's indicative of gaming as much as it is indicative of the Web3 movement as a whole. But I do think that most composability has, even outside of Web3, come from gaming.
Thanks. Oh.
I just want to say, I think DeFi, in many ways, was the first version of on-chain gaming because there's a lot of game theory and strategy that goes into managing liquidity pools or finding opportunities for spreads between yields on different platforms. So there was very much a gamification of finance. And regardless of the terminology that we use, I think one of the core benefits that blockchain brings to gaming is this financial, alternative financial ecosystem that people can participate in. Asset ownership, play to earn, labor market opportunities, and legitimate sustainable economies can be done.
Yes, totally agree. I think DeFi kind of kick off everything in crypto, but we really need DeFi to kind of bring more people in, or maybe financial aspect is always comes the first, and then I think right now is the era that we really focusing building games. So Frank and Christian, anything you want to share as well from the VC and the founder side?
Yeah, I think from the previous discussion, like the composable game, and like the non-circle gamified projects, and also like some gaming are not that Web3. They are just like aiming like different audience. I think the problem is like I don't know what size it is. You know, the people who believe in the interoperability, believe in the composability. I think it's a direction, but I don't know if we should, just give up another direction to target all those like your mother, your dad, or your child. I think that's still a meaningful direction to work on that. Yeah.
Sounds good. Christian?
Yeah, so I kind of like think that when you look at Web3, it's about ownership. And I think that's where it is different from Web2. But I also think that the whole mechanism of having everything on chain, I agree with Michael, I think that will take quite a while, but it's a little bit irrelevant. I think to which degree you actually are achieving it. It's pretty much about focusing on what does your user want? What are they driven by? Is it maybe a DeFi component, or maybe it's ownership? And what is obviously amazing in how he's developing Star Atlas is to scale it. You have this army of other people with great ideas that are doing it with you. Whereas when you look at the traditional gaming industry, everything is very centralized. And how do you scale? Well, you can only scale if you are at the top of the food chain and if you have deep pockets. So I think in the Web2 world, it would be impossible to start a gaming company and be at the stage where they're at now. And I think that that's the most inspiring thing for me from when I look at Web3.
I think it's such a great point. And Christian, you read my mind, because I was actually just about to mention something that my CTO, co-founder, often says is, we can effectively go from a scrappy startup that's bootstrapping a company to Google scale operation effectively overnight. And that's because we have this ability to scale with developers and innovators and entrepreneurs from all over the world, and we don't have to directly compensate them, because what we're providing is a platform of opportunity that they can choose to participate in. And so if you can get 50,000 developers or 100,000 developers building alongside you, imagine the things that you can accomplish. And I think that in so many ways, the way that we operate is very similar to the way that layer one protocols of Solana or Ethereum operate, because the whole core attraction is if you can get the users, there's a reason to build there, and you get people that are building all different types of services and applications.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna kind of add that, there's been online ownership before. Like, I used to trade CSGO skins, many years ago. And I think when you look at the core differences between what a Web3 game is and like what a Web2 game is, it's like you technically did have this profit incentivization. You technically did have this kind of buy-in. But I think when we talk about the concept of composability, that's really where the differentiation shines, and you start to see the actual explosive growth that kind of comes with it.
Sounds good. So we're talking about, like the composable games and part of the on-chain game. So like, what's the status quo right now for the on-chain game? And then, what's the challenging here for, the on-chain game? And then, what's the way for them to achieve the new era?
I would say the status quo for a game right now is to launch an NFT collection, make a lot of money, and then never build anything. And unfortunately, I think the stats kind of prove to that. It is nice to see the industry maturing, and obviously there's people like Star Atlas. You guys obviously have been a big pioneer in actually making a game, which unfortunately is not, it's not the status quo. I do think that we're starting to see a lot more maturity, and I think, when some people actually come out with it, you definitely have two classes. You have the giant, like Star Atlas, who've been taking many years, but then you also have the start small, iterate. And I think you can see a lot of that, obviously, in real time, which is what really excites me about this industry.
Yeah, for us, basically, what we've decided to do is to develop, set up this IP development fund, and actually use the Web3 community to raise money to invest in creators that are developing products for Web2, create new stories, animation, comics, toys, and then bring them back into Web3. And I think there's a big movement about real world assets, and I think it doesn't come much real than having your product being streamed on Netflix, having your toys in the toy store, and so I think that is the model that we've chosen, and then we just are using the mechanism of blockchain games to satisfy the needs and the requirements of a Web3 community. And we bring the rewards of the overall portfolio of IPs that we develop in Web2 and in Web3, and we bring it back to the Web3 community, which I think is a very exciting system.
I think me personally can agree with Anthony, because when he is talking about the game, the name just comes to my mind. So I don't know if it is the same game, the same fully on-chain game, but I agree with him on that. The status quo of fully on-chain game is not that mature. It's on very early stage, and someone got a big fundraising and then sell the NFT and not building something really great. But we also see some a lot of small teams. They are evolving by weeks, like every week they are having some new concept and introducing new features and are building something, not like a game. That's something I said before, yeah. So I'm quite bullish on fully on-chain games, but I also thought it might take 3 or 4 years to see some products very mature and with good quality to play and combine the Web3 future and also the gameplay itself.
Disagree on the 3 to 4 years. I think you're going to see something in 3 to 4 months. But I know because we're building it.
When are you releasing? 3 to 4 months?
Besides Michael's game. Others are behind.
I do agree, though, that we're in a very nascent stage of this fully on-chain gaming concept. We've been building out our browser-based product line for 3 years, and we're still arguably in a pre-alpha state. Now, you had asked about what are the challenges, at least two. One is you're introducing a dependency of sorts because you're leveraging some other tech that you don't completely control, such as, in our case, Solana, but any layer 1 protocol, and you are incorporating that as a foundational component of the way that you're building a product. And so I'm extremely bullish on Solana. I want to say that right now, but I think it's well known that we have had a number of challenges over the last 4 to 5 months in terms of network stability and transaction throughput. And what we have to understand, and what we do understand, is that we're building on beta technology ourselves. So what you're doing is taking this incredibly complex orchestration of development in building a game, and then you're introducing bleeding edge technology to that process. So you amplify and multiply by orders of magnitude the difficulty of completing a product that you actually want to build. The second real challenge there is, I've lost it. I guess we solved that one problem, but
Get it.
Yeah, maybe just to add one, I think that when you look at developing a Web2 game, it's not uncommon that it takes 10 years, right, to develop. So we just are a little bit unfortunate that in the Web3 world, if you open up a discount server on day 2, everybody's asking when moon, and why are there not 300,000 people in the server? The expectations, I think, are very short-term focused and very unrealistic to a certain extent. But I guess it also shows the enthusiasm and the dedication that people have. But I think, yeah, it's balancing those two, I guess.
I think that's just indicative of crypto as a whole. It's just completely short-term incentives of, launching a token, getting the token up, and then not really building anything in the bear market, and then being an add-on project for the next bull market.
Yeah, so, okay, talking about this, short-term incentives, and then, we all know crypto is about cycle, right? So maybe last month looks totally different than this month. So I just want to ask everyone here, no matter builder, VC, and infra builder, so what's how do I say that? So how do we navigate through cycles, to make your project survive? And then as a VC, how do you support a project to survive the cycles? Because as we say, we need to see long-term, especially in gaming, right? So like, how do we, navigate the up and down of the cycles? Any experience sharing or any advice, or who wants to take the lead?
Well, I'm obligated to say this because my director of community, Santi, is right here in the front row, but it is genuinely, it is genuinely managing community. So you need to build and cultivate this foundation of people that are really passionate about what you're doing and have comprehension and understanding of what the roadmap and the timelines look like. And once you have that core group that will support you through thick and thin, and we have been through wild highs and wild lows at Star Atlas, if you have that core group, they will not only be supportive of you, they will be advocates and evangelists for your product as well, and they will help recruit new people and educate new people on what it is that you're building and what the benefits are and why you should play. And I think it's really through that you're able to weave through a thread through the head of the needle of the short-term incentivized people will come and go. But once you have the core group, they're going to stick with you because they understand the big picture.
Yeah, Star Atlas really built a strong community. We did one AMA with Michael, and then we see how strong the community was. That really matters.
Yeah, I think also you have to kind of like have your long-term view, right? You have to be talking about what you really are going to do. And you can ride the short-term wave. But the problem with that a little bit is that what Michael was saying is that these are people that dip in and leave quite quickly. So it takes time to define, and I get that also the underlying foundation is that you know what you're doing, what's the real core thing that you want to achieve. And if you're riding the hype and the moment, how do you really kind of like convey that message? And for us, I think we have no choice because we have one foot in the Web2 world, where if I talk to Netflix about launching an animation, it can never be a short-term view. It always has to be a long-term one.
Yeah, and I think no matter what, through the high of the high highs and the low lows, it's kind of you're always going to have outlier signals in either direction, right? You're definitely not a genius in a bull market, but you're also not an idiot in a bear market. And I think there are times where sometimes it's very, very difficult to see through that and to just maintain vision, maintain direction. I would say that's probably even harder in a bull market than in a bear market, because that fear of missing out versus the fear of, wow, this entire industry isn't going to exist. The industry is here to stay, no matter what. But I think you can look around and you can see a bunch of new projects that are raising ungodly amounts of money and think to yourself, wow, what am I missing? What am I doing wrong? And the answer is nothing, right? And it's really hard to kind of sit through the fires and just to continuously go through the bulls and through the bears and to eventually know that, whether your time will come or your vision will come true, not being strayed by the outlying signals.
I just want to add one more point here, and again, dovetailing off of Christian here, is that from the studio developer perspective, you also need to strongly consider whatever it is that your incentive structure is for attracting users. And if, I can't tell you how many times I heard play to earn is dead over the last 3 years. And again, I was outspoken saying play to earn isn't dead. We just haven't seen the model executed appropriately. And so if your approach is we're going to offer you extremely high, unsustainable yield to get you into the game, well, sure, you're going to attract a person that is very interested in that specific model. Do not expect any level of retention. Now, that model is great if you want to raise capital and you want to show wonderful metrics around usage or adoption or growth, but again, it's not sustainable. And so, once again, core to our ethos is long-term, sustainable economic architecture that rewards people appropriately, but not excessively.
And to kind of add to that, it's always funny to get the example of Axie Infinity, which is like, oh, well, they had this terrible incentive program and now they're completely dead. It's like, well, they got hacked for $200 million. I don't really think it's inherently fair to compare it against that, because I don't know where Axie Infinity would have been had they not gotten exploited.
Yeah, I think I got a different question, right? So for me, it's about like how we support the gaming studio to survive. That's really a good question, you know.
Yeah, I really want to learn about your opinion toward that question.
It's
As a
really
supporter, you know.
It's really the key issue you answer to all your colleagues.
Yes, go ahead.
So normally I think it depends on the investment theme of a specific fund. Like some fund, like they love AAA games, they can put the money into it. They can, you know, do this round, another round. But for me personally, I prefer like the small team. Like I prefer small team, like developing innovative games. So I think they can kind of do the trade-off on product and the cost. So, and another important issue is about the community. So I think for Web3 gaming, like though someone criticized like you issue the NFT and you sell it, but I think that's like kind of the only way for small game to survive. Like even if you don't have a product, but you have your design, you have your theme, and you can have your community, and they will support you. So that's the communication part, and also cost control part. So it cannot be a simple answer. So it's really complicated, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add.
Okay, sounds good. So one more question for Frank. So talking about how VC support gaming, right? That's for Web3 games, right? And then for now, we've seen a lot of like the big trend, right? Like the Web2 games. They really want to enter Web3 games, right? But we've still, been seeing a lot of challenges and then a lot of obstacles to, preventing them from entering. So from a VC side, like what do you think the biggest challenges and then what really keeps them, hesitating entering the Web3 game, for right now, I mean, for this cycle?
Challenging for those big companies?
No, I mean, yeah, like Tencent or whatever, right?
Yes,
so,
yes,
like,
yes.
they all, they all want, like, Web3 games. And then maybe talk about also, how Web3 games can help investors to achieve, the things that cannot be achieved in Web2 in gaming.
I think, yeah, that's...
In terms of returns or, like the portfolio, diversity or whatever. I don't know, what's your opinion toward that?
Of course, liquidity is the first. Key issue, for investors. And I think for Web2 companies entering into Web3 game, I don't say it's a competition because I just think they are building something very different. And their target audience is non-Web3 users. They are like, activate their existing users with wallet, with something like that. And yeah, I don't say it's a competition.
Yeah, I think that what Michael was saying before, when he's building on a beta-tested environment, I think these guys are building on systems that they have known for years and years. So they know what they're building on, and it's not really evolving that much. So if you start building a game and it takes you 5 or 10 years to develop it, chances are that it will roughly look what it did before. But if you do this in Web3, you are growing with it. So I think for them to enter the Web3 space, I would expect that they just buy instead of develop. So I think there's a huge opportunity for Web3 games.
About VCs. Oh, yeah. It's about Web2 game. Well, I know that's what the panel's about.
No, I was asking Frank. So, what's the challenges for Web2 gaming studios or investors to enter Web3 games?
I think I had seen some. Like we had invested one, like a very successful mobile game studio with non-crypto experience and entering into crypto gaming industry field. The most challenging part would be the crypto itself, the token, the NFT,
tokenomics,
the community, the volume, and that's very difficult. If you are not banked by some players in this field, I think it's nearly impossible.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but isn't Steam removing a lot of crypto games? Isn't Steam removing a lot of crypto games? Yeah, so I would say probably that. I know we were talking to someone who wanted to deploy on Zion. Pretty much play to earn, tower defense like game, and the two directions are like, do we go crypto? In which case, we're not getting Steam, we're not getting the proper distribution methods that another, Web2 gaming company would. But at the same time, then you do get like this, you get this easy path to financing, which is, it's very, very dangerous. But I think it comes at the cost of a lack of distribution. So take what you will, and I guess hope that the distribution method kind of outpaces the fundraising environment, and roll the dice.
I think there's a couple of things here, starting with the tech itself. It's brand new, and kind of figuring out how to integrate that into a game is a new process. Once again, I think, Christian, you had mentioned that these are studios that have established production pipelines and they know how it works. And yes, there's a little bit of uncertainty around a roadmap and a development timeline, but ultimately you kind of know how to get from point A to point B if you've done this before and you've executed on before, which the major studios around the world have. And really beyond that, there is a lot of infrastructure coming online now that makes it simpler to integrate various modular elements of on-chain development into a gaming product. So I think that's largely a surmountable challenge, although it is still a bit of a challenge for now. I will say, I think a second part of this, though, is, and probably the biggest part of this, is the philosophy around community. And
yeah, I agree on that. Community engagement.
And it's different because in the traditional space, it's very much a user kind of purchaser relationship, whereas I really do think that as we move into this new Web3 world, our philosophy is all about shared value creation and shared value exchange. We're perfectly comfortable, again, if someone else builds an integration into our product and they monetize that. We don't care if we have to capture or if we get to capture every single piece of value that's created. And this is also true with our intellectual property. We have an open IP policy that people can use our branding, they can generate $1 million in revenue, they pay nothing to us. And we see this as an opportunity to grow alongside other people. And that's very much true with the user base as well, where we're very interactive with our community, which is not a customer. I mean, yes, they're a customer, but the relationship is so much deeper in the way that you converse and communicate with them. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges for these traditional studios to overcome. One final point is also on regulation. And I think most of us up here or people that are building in the space, I mean, we're taking big chances because we see the big opportunities and we're willing to take risk. And we have a lot less on the line. If you're a brand new studio, you have a lot less on the line than if you are an incumbent that's built a bunch of games and you're thinking about venturing into this space. Well, if you're risking an entire publicly traded company because you want to introduce a crypto token or a crypto asset to your game, is that really a prudent operational move? And so I think kind of navigating the regulatory landscape is going to be important as well. And they probably won't really get comfortable with that until we get some clarification from regulators.
And I think one last point on that, which I think you brought up very well, Michael, which was, crypto takes IP from the bottom and then distributes it up, right? If you have IP that you're making a significant amount of money on and that is your money maker, you have no incentive really to enter into Web3. Like maybe aside from a deeper community or some nice PR article, but I really don't see, this is meant to be a disruption in a way, right? It's meant to give the little guy access, so you don't need, to be a AAA game studio. You don't need to be Blizzard. You don't need to be any of these guys, and you can make a name for yourself. But doing that from the bottom up and saying, here's the IP, let's distribute it and let's snowball upwards.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think, so we work with a company called Bunny J, probably the largest production house in the world, with big titles like Survivor and Peaky Blinders. They have a keen interest to actually venture into the space. But the first problem that they have is that their company bank is prohibiting them from having a crypto wallet, which is quite essential. Besides that, their biggest worry, as what Anthony was saying, is that that they see a big risk in terms of what does it do to our IP, because we have so much to lose. So the moment you can actually convey them and help them, go beyond that hurdle, then they're game. So we are working on a couple of reality TV shows that we want to bring into the Web3 space, which is quite exciting. But the hoops that you have to go through in this highly centralized organization that has a lot to lose, it's more about trying to explain how you're not going to screw it up than to actually see how you're going to add value. So it's a very valid point.
Thank you, everyone. I think for time's sake, if we don't stop, I think this conversation can go forever. But thank you, everyone. And then just, I will invite everyone here to maybe say one sentence to the gaming industry in Web3 and then to the bull market. One sentence.
I mean, the sentence on the bull market is we are so back. It's not even funny. I think crypto gaming succeeds when we stop calling it crypto gaming and we just call it gaming and add elements for community and for people to actually be rewarded and ownership. But I think making a fun game is the most important part.
Yeah, for me, the credit here goes to Sam Stefanina. Web3 gaming is inevitable.
For me, the sentence would be everyone should to play the game you can really earn. Because I'm a Hearthstone player for 10 years, and it just quit China. And I lost all my cards, all my collections. That's a good example.
Yeah, so for us, it's a great way to give back and reward the community.
Nice. So maybe that's